you gonna get free this time? Falling into a blue sky mind. Came to me in that song, my friend.
Welcome back to You, Me, and the Elephant with Deb Air. And
Crystal clear.
this is
Da-da-da-da-da.
exciting. This is our first time back together for the year 2024. Who
Mm-hmm.
here remembers the show The Jetsons? The Jetsons was like a futuristic cartoon. And I think the future has arrived, is my
Mm.
point.
It
I
definitely
think we
feels
are
that
in the,
way this year.
yeah, I think we're in the Jetson age. So, welcome to You Mean the Elephant, where we take those connected threads that we all share in humanity and we like the ones that are less visible and we just like put the light on them and we look at them and we hug them and we hang in the space together and have beautiful conversation that it is our desire collectively that this they become these like fruits that you eat and become inspired and increase your awareness that not only can you experience deeper, more profound aspects of life, but that you're not alone in that we're
Mm.
doing this together.
And today's question is, beautiful people in 2024, do you like certainty or variety?
Yes, no, maybe. I
Yes,
don't
no,
know.
maybe so.
Let's find out. This came about because I've been really viewing my own life in regard to things on the certainty side and things on the varietal side. So I'd like to start out by just sharing how we look at certainty. Certainty is something we can all relate to in some way. Certainty sometimes is our need to control. It's our need to feel stable and safe and secure. It's where rituals come in, where habits are. It's the place that has a consistency that you can rely on. It's a foundation.
Mm.
And in this conversation, as we do, we don't know how this will show up, but I'm just really wanting to kind of contain what we mean anyways in this conversation
That's
when
right.
we say certainty.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing, if you're listening to this, there's a certainty that you are alive. You know what I mean? There's an aspect of life that is certain, and that there is a very important place and role for certainty in the world, in your biology, in the climate, and in humanity, and your own individual life. And then we're also looking at variety. Variety is where like the excitement can come in. It's where the movement comes in. It's where we take risks. It's
Mm-hmm.
where we bring in novelty in the world. It's where excitement can be in that when we have something new. Falling in love is an example of an aspect of variety. There may be parts of that you love to be a risk taker, and you love to have a sense of financial stability. So maybe you have a job that gives you a sense of stability, but there's something longing inside of you that wants some variety or wants to take a risk. But now you're dancing in this like, I don't want to leave that because I'm leaving an aspect that I know of stability, and yet I'm longing for this variety.
Mm.
And the truth is, in our human nature, we need both,
Yes.
period. We need both. And as a practitioner of the human body, as a chiropractor, and doing all the different things that I've done in the healing world, I work with the neurology. And one of the main aspects of working with people through their neurology is this understanding of the dance between what we would call stable or certainty or consistency and safe, and this instability, this variety of energy that can come in. And how that works is our nervous systems are inundated. We talk about that many times in our worlds and on this podcast, and that we can feel overwhelmed, we can feel overstimulated, we feel like there's a lot of noise in our system, we go into contracted states, nervous system has to kind of get narrower and narrower. But when we feel overwhelmed, we feel a sense of instability. We feel like that's when variety is not fun, right? It's like, wait a minute, I just need to like settle for a moment. I just need to feel like I can breathe. I just want to feel safe and still. I hear that a lot. I just want to have a moment of space, of feeling settled. So when I work with people, one of the first things that happen is we broaden and increase the stability. That means like there's a certainty, a safety in the physiology where the nervous system starts to regulate. You hear a lot about dysregulation of the nervous system, and that, again, some of the examples I already gave, that a lot of us have dysregulation or sensitivities for a plethora of reasons. And so as I work with people, the first goal is creating that stability. And this is important whether you get embodiment care or not, but I highly recommend that. It's however you do it, working with the neurology is so, so important, because it starts there. When we can recalibrate and we can regulate our nervous system, that is an example of creating stability in your system.
Yeah.
That means like you have a foundation, you have a body that you can sit in and go, okay, I've been incarnated. I'm safe. I'm okay. Through the years, I've heard people say, I just feel out of my body. I feel like I'm just disconnected. I don't know what to do. So that's part one. And what's really great is that when people feel the sense of stability in their system, they feel calmer. They feel like they can live in their body more safely. They feel like they can manage their life. They feel less stress. They feel more space.
More space.
Yeah. What's interesting, what happens almost like piggybacking on that, when you start feeling more safe and you have more stability in your neurosystem, you start going, oh my God, what else is there? Like, what, I have been living in a freaking small little box, and now I can breathe, and now I can stretch my arms out. And we're like, what else is there? And that's when, by nature, life needs variety. It needs more movement, and it needs to be able to reach out, which creates this instability that we need, that I like to call a novelty that comes in this place where we now have a foundation. We're like, okay, I'm safe, I'm okay. And so when I work with people, once we have their system in a place that's safe and okay and embodied, we go, let's engage in a little bit of temporary instability. And that just means variety. Same thing. That means novelty, where all of a sudden the nervous system gets new input that it doesn't already have in that stable flow. And it creates this, almost like if you see a leaf on the ground and wind comes on and it goes in the leaf does this thing and it spirals and then it lands. When you do that in a controlled setting, which is really stability, we just add this moment of temporary instability in the system. And guess what happens? All of a sudden, the nervous system has access to greater data, has access to greater consciousness. And then as it does that, and that leaf lands and your system lands, what eventually happens is you go back to a place of stability, but that stability has a broader bandwidth. It just means your foundation has gotten wider. It has gotten broader. And that's the really cool thing about growth and evolution, is that we can't really ever stay on, we were talking about this the other day, Crystal, maps, right? We can't stay on the same map that we see. We need to, there's evolution means that we must have this like certainty or stability, and we must have this variety and instability.
That's right.
And if we have too much of either of those things, life goes off kilter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we're overwhelmed and we want to push the world out, we close in that map. We're like, I just want to be in my house. I just want to see these people. That's it. This is all I can do. And usually what happens is when we're stuck and we're staying on this smaller range, life will come in. And that's when crises will happen, because if we get too out of balance, if we're trying to stay too stable, and because we're feeling like we just want to, this is the only thing we can control, then
Hmm.
life comes in, and we all know that feeling is like, boom, life starts blowing up.
Yeah.
And on the other end, when we're just like, I don't really, I like variety, I just love taking risks, and we don't have a habit of the stability in there, then a lot of times we can find ourselves going to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, but feeling lost in ourselves and feeling like, what is my purpose in life? Why can't I ever deepen in my relationship? Or why can't I ever stay in one relationship? Or whatever. We just kind of look for that next thing because we've never really sank into that variety and that insatiable desire for change in a way that we've created a habit with it. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So it doesn't go deep. And that's the same thing when I'm taking care of people. We're developing these areas along the spine that both have a structural piece, which is that certainty, that stability that we're talking about. And it also has this free energy piece, which is the variety or instability. And those two merging together is where evolution and transformation take place.
Heck yeah. I like that. That was a great description of that. I definitely am looking forward to where this is going to go next because anytime I hear a download of information, I feel like I just read the
Mhm.
textbook. I'm like, fantastic, because this is that part of me that follows those breadcrumbs that really loves knowing the why or really getting that picture of agreeing, really. So I can physically, mentally, and emotionally like relate to all those things. And then that next evolution is stepping off of that information map into how to apply it to your life map. And that part of me is just really engaged in this conversation in that way.
Mm. I love it.
So
Well,
thank you.
keep going because yeah, I don't think this is just for me.
Yeah,
For
and there's
everybody.
so many examples can come up when these things are happening, and my brain wants to kind of stay on the care piece. Of course, after receiving care, you walk back into your life, and what do you do? And so how do you even recognize when you're feeling instability in your body? How do you equalize that? And then how do you integrate it versus just superficially spinning on variety and going just in and out, in and out, in and out, and not maybe integrating? And then the stability part of not letting variety in because you're like, nope, it doesn't fit the routine or it doesn't fit the thing. So I'm just envisioning all of this inside of my body as you're saying it
Mm.
and how to scan, knowing how to regulate and provide the stability within your body to allow the variety to come in and integrate.
Yeah, what came up for me on what you just said was, or there's questions that just downloaded when you said that. It's like, where in your life can you look? Can you be honest with yourself and just consider, like, where do you feel stagnant or stuck? Where are those places where it's like Groundhog's Day and you're just doing the same thing and it's getting either flat or you're feeling stuck? And where in your life on the other end of that are you feeling like you want to go deeper, where you
Mhm.
want to become more masterful at something, where you feel like it's time to become more intimate with? Because those are the things that you could ask yourself, because if you want to go deeper and you feel like you're, like you said, skimming the surface, you need some more foundation or ritual, which would be the stability in there. So if you're feeling like you want to go deeper, that generally that's a place where you can spot where there's an imbalance, meaning that you might have too much variety in there. You might just be skimming the surface of a million things, jack of all trades, master of none,
Yep.
right? So to become a master, you need both, right? So you can look at where in your life you want to go deeper, and you might need to create, that might mean like, well, it's time for a coach, or it's time to have a ritual for journaling. It's time to finally go see Dr. Deb, or, whatever it is. Like,
Mhm.
it's time to create some kind of ritual where I can bring some stability, focus into this variety, into these things that I'm passionate about.
Mhm.
And then you can also look, where do you feel stuck or stagnant? And it's like, wow, how do I breathe some fresh air into that? How do I create some variety? How do I switch it around a bit? What am I longing for? What is that part that's panging in there? And how can I take that leaf and, let the wind come through whatever that thing that feels stuck or stagnant? Because in general, like even our biology, like our joints are creates stability, right? We
Mm-hmm.
need that. And our muscles create movement. There's always a dance. And that's just one example of our biology, but there's a dance between the two. We need both to exist in a system of life that is life giving, that
Mm-hmm.
allows for enough of both to exist. The reality is, though, sometimes we're going to have one more in the foreground. Like for all of you listening, you may relate more to, I love certainty as long as I know what the next 10 steps are. I'm going to be good. I can kind of control it. Those control freaks out there, we all have some of that in us. But some of you may resonate more with that. And some of you may resonate with that variety. It's like, I just love to like try new things and or take risks, or I want to skydive and I want to do this. Maybe you're an extreme athlete, but you may resonate with your personality more on that end. And the reality is where can you bring the skydiver into the control freak? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And where can you bring the stable one into the risk taker
Yes.
so that you can really have both be life giving, because it's always going to be a dance. The more you associate with just one, and if you're
Mhm.
heavy handed on one, you're going to have a bigger gap between them. And whatever the one you like, let's say stability and control freaking is your thing, the bigger gap you get away from having variety or temporary instability, the more crisis is going to come to you because there's more instability that needs to actually balance out life there. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yes, it does.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
So you're going to feel like I can't keep a job, or you can't have deep relationships because your need for change and variety is so big, or whatever. You don't
Hmm.
settle in. So you may have the pain of not being able to deepen into something yet.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to have some of that consistency come in and be like, how can we harness this like a loving hug long enough where that varietal piece can be nurtured and grow?
Yeah. I love this is like a note to self, one that I have definitely had to evolve through, is that a big part of me, and it's probably culturally conditioned, I'm sure, is to go externally while having this evaluation. So if it was like I had too much variety going on, I would have like a reason of why I did that, like almost like this protection of self, like, well, I'm variety because I don't want to be stuck in this way, or I like to do everything. It's like an excuse. But really, when you're super curious and you're aware that this is happening for you and it's only you, then you can really invite in those pieces of, well, what do I want now? How, like, who am I now? What is happening with me now? Versus it being someone else's fault, or I need to be super safe because of these reasons here. Just bringing it back to the nervous system, like you said, that if we can continue to bring it back to the center of us, and then we start to evaluate, okay, where do we want to be masterful in this variety pack that we love? How do we want to maybe loosen the grips on some of the things that I thought life would end if it did not happen this way? And
Mm.
it is that journey that you're taking with yourself. And it doesn't have to be that everyone else has to have all these chess pieces in a certain place in order for you to do that. And that has been a big learning for me over life and over parenting
Yeah.
and adulting and all the other words we want to fill into the blank there.
Humaning.
Humaning. It's been a
There
big one for me, is that it's my responsibility, like to be me and to evaluate all, because my balance is not going to be someone else's balance. It's not gonna, the recipe will not be the same for all. And I need to master my own recipe and let certain ingredients in at
Yes.
certain times. Yeah.
Right. And you may like different recipes at different
That's
times
right.
of your life, right? And that's the constant shift and changing. And truly, you said responsibility, and I got chills because it's like, know that your responsibility is also your freedom.
Yeah.
You being responsible is a way that I hear it as honoring the life of you. And in doing that, there is a freedom to be you.
Yeah.
I'm remembering when my practice was in a different location, and I kept feeling like I didn't fit in this space. And I was looking at different places to potentially move the office. And I had nervousness about taking that risk for several reasons. But it was getting like I did not fit. There was like too much of a container that I didn't fit in. So that's like too much certainty and stability. And one day after office hours, I took a bike ride. I come home, I'm reading to my son, and I get a phone call, maybe an hour tops from leaving my office. And there's a 4 alarm fire at my office. And back then, I had gone through a lot of instability. I made a change. I moved 3,000 miles away. I found out I was pregnant a week after moving. I was going through a challenging divorce. There was so much instability happening that needed to happen. Like it was an imbalance because I did need some stability in my life, but the building wasn't the example. And I was sort of ignoring that and knowing it and not changing it. So this is part of my example. Back then, when I didn't have as much of a bandwidth in my neurology, boom, a fire comes in and
Yeah.
goes, guess what? You're supposed to move out of this space. So when I look back at my life, I feel where I lived too much imbalance between stability or certainty and instability or variety. And sometimes, even if you have a balance of that, where you're balancing that is, and that's what we're going to get to in a moment, and this is what I've been observing in my life currently, is that where you're putting the variety and where you're putting the stability are not in the right places. They're not in
Mm,
alignment with who you really are. And
yeah.
so it still becomes an imbalance, which is tricky. And so what I have been observing, and as you were just speaking of this, I saw how much more just imbalanced I was with both variety and certainty,
Mm,
stability and instability. Now I feel like I'm much more balanced, but it's almost trickier in a different way, meaning it's more integrated. And going back to that question, when you can just look in your life, do you feel like you tend to be stuck, or where in your life do you feel like you're stuck, and where in your life do you want to deepen? For me, I have an integration of both. Like I like that excitement, and every day I have something that's exciting. I literally am devoted to that. And every day I like to have some aspect of consistency and structure. However, what I've been observing lately is, are there places where I have been pretty consistent and stable that almost, if you ever like driven somewhere and forget, you don't even remember driving there, that's something that's gotten so stable that you've actually lost a lot of life. Like you didn't even pay attention to it. This is the whole point of having both. You need to bring in both. And so, like in my business is actually a great example. There is a consistency. I've been doing this business for a long time. I've added variety. Obviously, the fire was one of them, but life is going to do it for you, is our point. You might as well become more conscious that instability or variety is necessary, and so is consistency, stability, certainty. And
mm-hmm.
we're saying different words because you may resonate, but on a very biological fundamental level, stability means if a system is stable, it means that you can manage the external world. You can regulate that. It's a regulating thing. So it doesn't mean that it's static per se. It just means that it can handle it. The instability is the change and the chaos that comes in. You cannot grow without that instability. And you must always grow. We've heard this many times that
Mm-hmm.
if you don't grow, you die. And that's true. If you're too stable, then you either, the only two things you can do is die, or you have to change something up, or you're going to have a crisis come and it'll change it up for you.
Yeah.
I've been talking to people, friends of mine all over the planet, and even if the weather is not the same where they live, that there's a lot of variety and
Mm-hmm.
inconsistency happening. And this is an example, at least from my perspective, that Mother Earth is brilliant. And the way that we've been doing things, the way that we've been living on planet Earth in a certain way, is that stability. It's that I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to
That's
treat
right.
Mother Earth this way.
Yep.
And Mother Earth is coming in and being like, well, we need bigger experiences of instability so that we can change these behaviors of how we live on the earth. And the
Yeah.
real question will be, can we do that? Can we come more into rhythm with Mother Earth so that we can all live in harmony together? Harmony is not static. Balance is not static. Balance and harmony is the dance between the stability and instability, is in
Mm-hmm.
the certainty and the variety, is the change in foundation. So you can look at it all over the world happening, and we can freak out, or we can go, this is a reality. Life is either going to change this for me, or it's going to make me feel lost and I have no path, which would be the too much variety, or it's going to come and turn up our worlds because we're trying to hone in our life and control it too much or in the wrong places. So this is really an invitation into considering that this is part of how universal energy and how our biology and how our thoughts, how our emotions, all of it work. And when you can become more visible with it, you can actually be in a more life-giving relationship with it.
Yeah, totally.
Which is exciting. And that's what I'm doing right now. Let's say I'm going to use my business. It's like, wow, where can I, that part that we all know, those parts where like, you know what, it's nice. I just know I get up, I do the thing, I go into the place or whatever it is that we just do again and again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful thing. But no matter what that is, so like with my business, there's an aspect that I'm asking of like, where can I put variety? Where can I take a risk? Where can I ask different questions? And then maybe in the same thing, where can I create some new rituals in my business, which is the stability? A
Yeah.
ritual or a habit is a stability. It's like, where can I create that? So even in one aspect of your life, whether it's your body, your health, whether it's your business or your career, whether it's your relationships, where can you, even within the container of those things, go, wow, where can I spice it up a little bit? And where can I actually create some consistency or devotion? Devotion is another type of stability. You know, you're devoted to it, which I was just sharing with you, Crystal. I've talked about desires on here before, right? I just hit 50 days of desiring. I don't do them necessarily every day. And what's really cool, and I see this in the care that I give to people too, is that the habit, the ritual is the desiring. The desiring itself is the variety, meaning I have no idea what I'm going to desire. I'm asking spirit and source. I'm asking my soul. I'm lighting up this soul map and going, I don't know, what do you have for me today? So that's the variety or instability.
Mm-hmm.
But the stability is the devotion that I've had. And one of the things we talk about in neurobiology and in physics is we talk about emergent properties. And what that means is that when we can be consistent with something and know that there's some instability within that consistency, my desire journal and habit is the consistency. The desires themselves are chaotic or they're unpredictable, right?
Mm-hmm.
That when you can do that, something emerges that's different. And we were planning on doing this podcast, this recording last Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and we're doing it today. And just today, so we already knew the subject. I was already looking at just today, I started my desires and something emergent happened, something that never happened before. Normally, I go in and I say, I desire. And I'm with desire because I know when I'm with desire, when I'm with my longing, it's a map to my soul. Today, something different happened. And it just came and it says, what do you have for me today, desire? And it all of a sudden changed direction. Instead of it coming from me, I'm asking desire itself. And so the whole point is sometimes we need to stay long enough, which
Yep.
is the consistency, the stability, with some of those exciting things that let something deepen, and that combination, something new emerges. So just today, I have a whole new workshop that's going to be forming of my own experience with desires. I was like, whoa, that's what
Yeah,
just emerged in my desires. And
that's right.
now I know that from learning, but this is the actual experiencing of it. And
Yeah.
that's what we're calling for you to do. How can you start to dip into the experiencing of life, create concrete experiences like I just did with the desire example, but first assess how much of a contrast or gap is there between your variety, instability, and your stability, consistency, and certainty. And how can you really make that more visible and play and dance with both in a way that you can choose where you want to put more consistency in or devotion, and you can choose where you want to put a moment of temporary instability. An example of temporary instability is like I'm in the middle of work and I'm going to get up and dance,
Mm-hmm.
right? People
Mm-hmm.
talk about pattern disrupting. That's what I
Right.
do when I work with people.
Yeah,
That's that temporary instability. It's all over the place. So how can you embrace that more and not have to just stay on one camp because you know innately that it doesn't work that way.
that's right. I love that example because for me, definitely favoring or having more, I resonate more probably with the variety piece. There's a part of me that feels like, well, if I want to shake things up, I have to do it totally different. Like, forget deepening into that. I need to just change the station. I got to do it like completely different. It's got to be this whole new thing and almost abandon the stability part. And then what bites me in the butt is going fast, so quick into the newness that I lose stability and it ungrounds me. So the exercise of the desire journal was key and really spoke to me because it was this thing that was it's okay to do the stability. In my mind, I'm probably going stability is stagnant, boring, death. Like there's just that's my script. That's my own personal thing going on. So the fact that it can even be lit up into conversation of the evaluation, again, it's always you. And I used to be like a professional external blamer, shamer, all the things. This is why I am not feeling balanced right now. It's because there's things going on outside of me. And so the more I can come and just bring it back in, and I love the question of where do you feel stuck or stagnant? Just do this evaluation, know thyself. Like you just got to keep coming back. And here you are doing a ritual, and here you are over 50 days. And it came in uncontrolled, right? That wasn't the point of that. I'm going to do this for so long that this thing's going to come in. You trusted that. And the stability part is that it was supporting you in some way to do this ritual. And then all of the sudden, this ritual had new information for you because you kept integrating, deepening, like you were planting that seed and the roots started to grow and all the things versus the bird coming by and picking the seed and taking it away. It just kept growing. And that for me was really important to hear that deepening piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. And it's so interesting because I'm going to push the edges a little bit only because you shared it. So I hope this is okay that like I get that your personality connects with variety and
Mm-hmm.
insatiable desire for new things. I think part of
Mm-hmm.
it will always be that. The trickery is because the innate aspect of life always has to have both.
Yeah.
I also know you have someone, and you've said it on here, that how much you love structure, right? So
Yes.
we will satisfy, we will satiate our need for stability in some way.
That's right.
So because your personality loves variety, you have created a habit in your life that needs a lot of structure to feel like you can control things. So that's where that hyper focus is. The question is, where do you use structure just as managing? And actually, where can you use structure that actually is more of a devotion that can support the things that you love and the excitement? And that's where desire, this example of desire came in because I'm like, oh, there's no rules for desire. I'm just asking for whatever the fuck I want. It
Mm-hmm.
feels freeing. It feels, and then I'm like, okay, well, do it on this container, do it in this devotion. And
Yeah.
that is how life births.
Yeah.
Think of childbirth itself. There's a lot of stability and there's a lot of instability. And we need this balance, and it will, don't let yourself be fooled. It will come in. Even if and that was the trickery of
Yeah.
the question at the very beginning, you may associate with one But let me tell you, if you are someone who's constantly wanting certainty and just focusing on that, you will be somebody who's constantly having the world kind of rip you apart or betray you or whatever it is. It's going to balance itself out because it's wanting to happen. And sometimes, and this is kind of what I was suggesting to you, Crystal, why this subject even came about is because I was looking at, oh, I've got some of this balance, but is where I'm stable, where I'm supposed to be stable,
Yeah.
or where I'm very varietal, is that really helping? Is that really in alignment? Where are those places that might need to be looked at and nurtured a little differently? It's a cool thing to consider. And as always, for me anyways, it's very revealing. And
Yes.
it's actually super supportive because I'm like, oh, of course, like when I know that I need consistency, we all do some aspect of it. It's like, okay. And it's like, is this consistency bringing me more life? Some aspects of my business, the answer is no. And then, and I'm just using this as an example because I used it before, but like, and those places where I get excited and variety, I might just go watch a show or binge because I want a feeling of like not being consistent and hearing all these things. And it may feed that need for consistency. Or one of those things is that I have all these ideas that come to me and there's so much variety. And it's like, well, where can I harness that and bring some stability to that, right? So it's interesting to look at aspects of your life and just ask the question, what needs a little more excitement? What feels a little stagnant, that needs a little breath of fresh air and something a little different? And where in my life am I just not harnessing? I am not moving forward. I'm not deepening where it needs a little bit of a ritual or devotion to it. So I'm feeling it now. I've been observing this in myself, but speaking it out loud to you and to all of you has really helped me pinpoint a couple of things.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
everywhere.
Per usual, it's in the air. That tends to be how the topics come up. It is actually happening right now.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight.
Oh no.
Oh no, that's right. Coming for you, baby.
Crystal,
It's
remember
coming.
that part.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So if you're in a moment where there's a lot of crisis, or you're in a moment where the climate's really hitting you, like I want you to remember that what we're talking about is quite relevant. And how can we listen in a way where we can just take in the parts that are saying, like, what is Mother Earth telling you? How can you get more in rhythm with her? And wherever that is in your life, where if there's a lot of challenge, where can you within that challenge just create some kind of ritual that meets and says hello to that challenge? And when you're feeling stuck, you don't have to, let's say you're feeling stuck in your job, you don't have to go and quit tomorrow. You could, but where can you add some variety or ask some questions of what you long for, because that will bring the variety in. That's all you need to do, like one little step. And again, it always starts with asking the question, to hang in that space, to lift what you thought you were and allow something more of you to come in.
Yeah.
So we hope you've enjoyed this first Crystal and I 2024 episode on do you love certainty or do you love variety? And as always, it's been such a pleasure and an honor. I will say this, we do have this goal of having more people listen. And two things, we would love for you to share this podcast with anybody. We've had some people say, I sent it to this person and that person, so sometimes something moves you personally, but sometimes you go, oh my gosh, this person really needs to hear this. So we really get that. I get that for sure. So we're asking you, please share it. And also, can you follow us, whether you're an Apple person on Apple Music or Spotify? We're trying to increase the bandwidth, which is this dance, right? We're trying to increase the foundation. And so my instability is asking you all directly to help get this to more people. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Until next time. And now, Trevor Hall with Blue Sky Mind.
It's in and through the body, all along, in and through the body. Feeling through the body.